If you enjoyed this audiobook, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge, and when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the book. Chapter 1: The Clock and the Compass. Part 1: Chasing the Right Things. Modern life presents a curious paradox. We have never been busier, yet many feel less accomplished than ever. The endless stream of emails, meetings, and tasks creates an illusion of productivity, while genuine progress remains elusive. This section explores the critical difference between motion and movement, helping you distinguish between activities that merely fill time and actions that create meaningful change. You will discover how to identify what truly matters in your life and work. Learn to align your daily efforts with deeper values and develop practical strategies for focusing on outcomes rather than output. Elena works 14 hours a day. Her calendar bursts with back-to-back meetings, her inbox overflows with urgent requests, and her to-do list grows faster than she can check items off. Colleagues praise her dedication, yet Elena feels trapped on a hamster wheel. Despite constant motion, she questions whether her frantic activity produces any meaningful results. This scenario illustrates a common trap. We often confuse being busy with being productive. Busy people fill their schedules with activities. Productive people focus on activities that move them towards specific outcomes. The difference between these approaches determines whether your efforts compound into progress or dissipate into exhaustion. Consider Marcus, a marketing manager who spent months creating detailed presentation slides, attending networking events, and responding to every email within minutes. His activity levels impressed everyone, but his department's key metrics remained flat. Only when Marcus stepped back did he realize his truth. He was optimizing for looking busy rather than achieving results. What drives us to chase activity over achievement? Several psychological factors contribute to this pattern. First, completed tasks provide immediate satisfaction. Checking items off a list releases dopamine, creating an addictive cycle of task completion. This biological reward system evolved to help our ancestors survive, but in modern contexts, it can mislead us into prioritizing easy wins over important work. Second, visible activity feels safer than strategic thinking. When Marcus attended every meeting and responded to every email, his efforts were observable. Strategic work like analyzing market trends or developing long-term campaigns often happens quietly, making it harder to demonstrate value in the short term. Third, our culture rewards busyness. Being overwhelmed has become a status symbol. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor, equating busy schedules with importance. This cultural pressure pushes us toward accumulating activities rather than creating outcomes. How can you tell if you're chasing the wrong things? Start by examining the relationship between your daily actions and your desired outcomes. Rachel, a software developer, realized she spent 4 hours daily in meetings that rarely resulted in decisions or progress. Meanwhile, the coding projects that could advance her career remained untouched. The key lies in distinguishing between urgent and important tasks. Urgent tasks demand immediate attention but may not contribute to long-term goals. Important tasks directly support your desired outcomes, even if they lack immediate pressure. Most people instinctively respond to urgency while neglecting importance, creating a cycle where truly meaningful work gets constantly postponed. Think about your last week. Which activities moved you closer to your most important goals? Which ones simply kept you busy? This reflection often reveals a troubling gap between intention and action. Consider implementing the 3-question filter for evaluating activities. Before committing to any task, ask yourself, does this support my primary objectives? Will this matter in 6 months? Am I the best person to handle this? If you cannot answer yes to at least 2 questions, reconsider your involvement. James, a small business owner, used this filter to transform his daily routine. Previously, he handled every customer service call, believing personal attention demonstrated commitment. After applying the 3-question filter, he realized these calls prevented him from developing new products and expanding his business. By training staff to handle routine inquiries, James freed himself to focus on strategic growth activities. The process of aligning daily actions with long-term values requires ongoing attention. Your values act as a compass, providing direction when decisions become complex. Without clear values, you'll likely gravitate toward whatever seems most urgent or appealing in the moment. Start by identifying your core values through reflection. What principles guide your best decisions? What legacy do you want to create? What activities energize rather than drain you? Write down your answers and refer to them when evaluating opportunities. Amy, a consultant, discovered that her core values centered on helping others develop skills and solve complex problems. This clarity helped her decline lucrative but unfulfilling projects while accepting challenging assignments that aligned with her purpose. Her income initially decreased, but her satisfaction and long-term prospects improved dramatically. Regular review prevents drift from your intended path. Schedule weekly sessions to assess whether your actions match your priorities. This practice creates accountability and helps you adjust course before small deviations become major detours. The transition from busy to productive requires patience and persistence. You'll face pressure to return to familiar patterns of constant activity. Colleagues may question your new approach when you decline meetings or delegate tasks. Remember that effectiveness often appears different from conventional productivity. Your goal is not to eliminate all busy work, but to ensure that productive work receives priority. Some administrative tasks are necessary, but they should not dominate your schedule or energy. By focusing on activities that create genuine progress, you transform your relationship with time and work. The difference between chasing activity and pursuing achievement shapes the trajectory of your life. Choose to measure success by outcomes rather than hours worked, by progress rather than tasks completed, by meaningful contribution rather than visible busyness. Part 2. The power of saying no. Understanding when to say no might be the most important skill you never learned in school. Most people struggle with declining requests, opportunities, and invitations, even when accepting them pulls them away from their most important goals. Learning to say no with confidence and grace creates space for the activities that truly matter. This skill transforms overwhelmed schedules into purposeful lives, helping you move from reactive responses to intentional choices. The stories and strategies in this section will show you how saying no becomes your greatest tool for saying yes to what counts. Marcus, a marketing director at a growing tech company, found himself drowning in commitments. He attended every meeting invitation, accepted speaking engagements at industry events, and volunteered for additional projects. His calendar looked impressive, but his core responsibilities suffered. His team missed deadlines while he sat through irrelevant meetings. His family saw him only during rushed dinners between conference calls. The turning point came when Marcus realized he was saying yes to everything except his primary job. He started with a simple question: does this directly support my main objectives? Within 3 months, he declined 60% of meeting invitations and passed on half the speaking opportunities. His team's performance improved dramatically, and he left the office by 6 p.m. most days. What changed Marcus's life was understanding that every yes contains an automatic no to something else. When you accept one commitment, you reject countless alternatives. The busy trap makes us forget this truth. We see each request in isolation rather than considering its cost against our priorities. Think about your last week. How many times did you say yes when you wanted to say no? What important activities did you sacrifice for less meaningful obligations? Rachel, a freelance graphic designer, learned this lesson through painful experience. Early in her career, she accepted every project offered, regardless of payment or alignment with her skills. She worked late nights designing business cards for minimal fees while turning away lucrative branding projects due to time constraints. Her income stayed flat despite working 70-hour weeks. The shift happened when Rachel created her yes criteria. She would only accept projects that paid her target rate, matched her design strengths, or provided significant learning opportunities. Initially, her income dropped as she turned down low-paying work. Within 6 months, however, she attracted higher-quality clients who valued her expertise and paid accordingly. Fear drives most poor no decisions. We worry about missed opportunities, damaged relationships, or appearing unhelpful. These concerns feel legitimate, but often prove groundless. The opportunity cost of saying yes to everything is rarely calculated. Consider the mathematics of acceptance. If you work 50 hours per week and sleep 8 hours per night, you have roughly 62 waking hours for all activities. Every commitment consumes a portion of this finite resource. Saying yes to a 2-hour meeting means saying no to 2 hours of focused work, family time, or personal development. Tom, a small business owner, discovered this when he tracked his time for 1 month. He spent 25 hours in meetings that produced no actionable outcomes. Meanwhile, his business development activities, which directly generated revenue, received only 8 hours of attention. The imbalance was clear once he saw the numbers. Many people struggle with saying no because they lack clear criteria for evaluation. Without defined priorities, every request seems equally important. The solution involves creating a simple decision framework. Start with your core objectives. What 3 outcomes would make the biggest difference in your work and life over the next year? Write these down and refer to them before accepting new commitments. If a request doesn't support at least one core objective, it becomes a candidate for declining. The manner of saying no matters as much as the decision itself. Effective refusal maintains relationships while protecting your time. Direct but polite responses work better than elaborate excuses or delayed decisions. Instead of saying, "I'm too busy," try, "This doesn't align with my current priorities." Rather than "I can't," use, "I've chosen not to take on additional commitments this month." These responses acknowledge your agency in the decision while respecting the person making the request. Diana, a senior manager at a consulting firm, mastered this approach after years of overcommitment. When colleagues requested her participation in non-essential committees, she responded, "I appreciate you thinking of me. I'm focusing my volunteer time on client development initiatives this quarter, so I won't be able to contribute effectively to this committee." Her colleagues respected her clarity and stopped making requests that didn't match her stated priorities. More importantly, Diana's performance in her chosen areas improved significantly because she concentrated her energy where it mattered most. Sometimes saying no requires offering alternatives. When you decline a request, suggesting another resource or a different approach maintains goodwill. "I can't join this committee, but Sarah from our team has expressed interest in policy work," provides value while maintaining your boundaries. The hardest no decisions involve opportunities that seem beneficial but don't align with your current focus. A promotion in a different department, a chance to write for a prestigious publication, or an invitation to an exclusive conference might offer genuine value. However, if accepting means abandoning your primary objectives, the opportunity cost may be too high. What criteria do you use to evaluate new opportunities? How do you balance potential benefits against your existing commitments? Learning to say no becomes easier with practice. Start with low-stakes situations where the consequences of declining are minimal. Build your confidence with small no's before tackling bigger decisions. Each successful refusal reinforces your ability to protect your priorities. The ultimate goal is not to say no to everything, but to say yes more deliberately. When you decline requests that don't serve your objectives, you create space for activities that do. Your yeses become more powerful because they're supported by purposeful no's. Remember that people respect clear boundaries more than wishy-washy availability. Colleagues, friends, and family members learn to value your time when you demonstrate that you value it yourself. Saying no to the wrong things enables you to say yes to the right ones with full commitment and energy. Part 3. Finding your North Star. Your North Star acts as an internal compass that guides every choice you make, cutting through confusion and helping you move toward what matters most. When you identify this guiding purpose, decision-making becomes clearer, overwhelm decreases, and your daily actions align with your deeper values. This section will help you discover your personal North Star through practical methods and real stories of people who transformed their lives by finding their true direction. You'll learn to identify your core values, recognize your genuine passions, and create a framework for making choices that lead to lasting fulfillment and meaningful progress. Maya worked as a marketing manager for 8 years, earning good money and receiving regular promotions. Yet she felt empty at the end of each day. Her weekends were spent recovering from work stress, and she often wondered why success felt so hollow. The problem wasn't her job performance or salary. Maya lacked a North Star. She had been following what others expected rather than what genuinely mattered to her. Everything changed when Maya took time to examine her core values. She realized that creativity and helping others were her strongest motivators. Her marketing role involved neither. Maya began volunteering at a local nonprofit, teaching digital skills to small business owners. The energy she felt during these sessions was completely different from her office experience. She had found her direction. What activities make you lose track of time because you find them so engaging? This question often reveals clues about your North Star. Your North Star represents your fundamental purpose and values rolled into one guiding principle. It serves as a decision-making filter that helps you choose between competing priorities. When Carlos faced a choice between a high-paying corporate job and starting his own consulting practice, he used his North Star to decide. His guiding principle was helping families build financial security. The corporate role would have provided personal wealth, but limited his impact on others. The consulting path offered direct opportunities to guide families toward better financial decisions. Carlos chose consulting and built a thriving practice within 3 years. His North Star didn't guarantee easy decisions, but it made them clearer. Finding your North Star requires honest self-reflection about what drives you beyond external rewards. Start by examining moments when you felt most fulfilled and energized. Rosa discovered hers while helping her elderly neighbor navigate medical appointments. She realized her North Star was bringing comfort and clarity to people during difficult times. This insight led her to transition from accounting to becoming a patient advocate at a local hospital. The process begins with identifying your core values. These are the principles you won't compromise, regardless of circumstances. Tom valued integrity, learning, and family connection above all else. When offered a promotion that required extensive travel and ethically questionable sales tactics, his values provided clear guidance. He declined the position and later found a role that honored all 3 values. Consider what you would regret not pursuing if you look back on your life in 20 years. This perspective exercise helps separate genuine aspirations from temporary desires. Your passions provide another compass point toward your North Star. Passions are activities that energize rather than drain you. Linda loved organizing systems and helping people find solutions to complex problems. She initially thought these were just hobbies, but they pointed toward her North Star of creating order and clarity in chaotic situations. Linda eventually became a professional organizer and found deep satisfaction in her work. Authentic passions persist over time and survive temporary setbacks. When Mark's first attempt at teaching music failed, his passion for sharing musical knowledge remained strong. He tried again with a different approach and built a successful online music education business. Long-term goals should flow naturally from your North Star rather than being imposed from outside expectations. Elena's parents expected her to become a doctor, but her North Star centered on inspiring young minds to discover their potential. She became a high school science teacher instead. Her goals aligned with her guiding purpose, leading to both personal satisfaction and professional recognition. Your North Star makes daily decisions simpler by providing a consistent reference point. When James received multiple project requests, he evaluated each against his North Star of building technology that improves people's daily lives. This filter helped him choose projects that energized him while declining those that didn't serve his deeper purpose. How does your current work or daily routine align with what you say matters most to you? Honest answers to this question reveal gaps between your stated values and actual choices. The power of a clear North Star becomes evident during challenging periods. When Andrea's design business struggled during economic uncertainty, her North Star of helping small businesses tell their stories visually kept her motivated. She pivoted to offering affordable branding services to local startups, maintaining alignment with her purpose while adapting to market conditions. Regular reflection helps keep your North Star relevant as you grow and change. Schedule monthly reviews to assess whether your choices still align with your guiding purpose. Kevin discovered his North Star was evolving from achieving personal success to creating opportunities for others to succeed. This shift led him to mentor young entrepreneurs while adjusting his business strategy. Your North Star should feel both inspiring and practical. It should motivate you during difficult times while providing concrete guidance for everyday decisions. When Beth defined her North Star as helping people find joy through food, it guided everything from her career change to culinary school to her weekend meal prep business. Remember that finding your North Star is a process, not a destination. Start by paying attention to what genuinely energizes you. Examine your deepest values, and notice patterns in your most fulfilling experiences. Your guiding purpose will emerge through this careful observation and honest reflection. Part 4. Time's Hidden Traps. Time slips away from us in ways we rarely notice. While we obsess over obvious time wasters like social media or long meetings, the real culprits often hide in plain sight. These subtle time traps operate below our awareness, quietly draining hours from our days and energy from our lives. Understanding these hidden patterns is the first step toward reclaiming control over your most precious resource. You will learn to spot the invisible forces that steal your time, recognize their cumulative impact on your goals, and implement practical strategies to break free from their grip. Marcus thought he had his mornings under control. He woke up early, made coffee, and sat down to work on his novel before his day job started. Yet weeks passed with little progress. The problem was not his intention, but his execution. He would check his phone just for a minute to see the weather. Then came the news notifications, a quick scroll through messages. Before he knew it, his precious writing time had vanished into the digital void. This scenario plays out millions of times each day. We think we are being productive when we are actually caught in the web of micro-distractions. Each interruption seems harmless, lasting only seconds. But research shows that our brains need up to 23 minutes to fully refocus after a distraction. The real damage comes from the compound effect of these small interruptions throughout our day. Consider how Emma discovered her time leak. She felt constantly busy, but struggled to point to meaningful accomplishments. A simple time audit revealed the truth. She spent 47 minutes daily walking between meetings in different buildings. Another 38 minutes waiting for others to join video calls. 23 minutes searching for files because her computer desktop was cluttered. These invisible minutes added up to nearly 2 hours of lost productive time each day. The multitasking myth represents another major time trap. David believed he was being efficient by responding to emails while attending meetings, eating lunch while reviewing reports, and listening to podcasts while exercising. Instead, he was training his brain to never fully focus on anything. His work quality suffered, his stress increased, and he felt mentally exhausted by noon. How often do you find yourself doing 2 things at once, believing you are saving time? The human brain cannot actually multitask. It switches rapidly between activities, losing efficiency with each transition. What feels like productivity is actually a form of voluntary distraction that reduces the quality of everything you attempt. Routine activities often become time traps when we stop examining their value. Rachel spent 45 minutes each morning organizing her desk, checking multiple weather apps, and reading industry newsletters that rarely contained useful information. These habits felt productive because they involved work-related activities, but they served no real purpose beyond creating a false sense of accomplishment. The digital world has introduced new categories of time traps. Notification fatigue keeps us in a constant state of partial attention. We check our phones over 150 times per day on average. Each check breaks our focus and creates mental residue that lingers even after we put the device down. Social comparison through digital platforms creates another subtle trap. Ben spent 30 minutes each evening scrolling through professional networking sites, ostensibly for career development, but he was really feeding his anxiety about others' apparent success while doing nothing to advance his own goals. Breaking free from these traps requires awareness and intentional action. Start with a simple time audit. For 1 week, track how you spend every 30-minute block. Do not try to change anything yet. Simply observe. You might be surprised by what you discover. The audit will reveal patterns you never noticed. Maybe you spend 20 minutes each afternoon in pointless conversations that drain your energy. Perhaps you lose an hour daily to poorly organized digital files. Or you might find that certain times of day are consistently unproductive despite your best efforts. Once you identify your personal time traps, create specific strategies to avoid them. If morning phone checks steal your focus, charge your device in another room overnight. If cluttered workspaces slow you down, spend 5 minutes each evening preparing for the next day. If certain meetings consistently run long without adding value, suggest time limits or question their necessity altogether. What would change in your life if you reclaimed just 1 hour per day from these hidden time traps? Small adjustments compound over time. The 30 minutes Marcus saved by keeping his phone in another room during writing sessions led to completing his novel within a year. Emma's desktop organization system eventually freed up enough time for her to pursue a certification that advanced her career. The key is starting with awareness, then making small, sustainable changes that align with your North Star. Time traps lose their power once you recognize them and take deliberate action to avoid them. Chapter 2, The Art of Focus. Part 1, Clearing the Clutter. Creating organized spaces and mental clarity serves as the foundation for sustained focus and meaningful progress. When physical environments overflow with unnecessary items and minds become cluttered with endless distractions, the ability to concentrate diminishes significantly. This section explores how removing excess from both external surroundings and internal thought patterns creates the conditions necessary for deep, productive work. Through practical strategies and real-world examples, you will discover how simplifying your environment and commitments leads to enhanced energy, clearer thinking, and the freedom to pursue what truly matters. The weight of clutter extends far beyond what meets the eye. Consider Emma, a marketing director who spent 20 minutes each morning searching for important documents buried beneath stacks of papers, old magazines, and random office supplies. Her desk resembled a chaotic landscape where productivity went to die. After implementing a simple organization system and removing everything except daily essentials, Emma discovered something remarkable. Her morning routine transformed from frantic searching to calm preparation, and her ability to focus on complex projects improved dramatically. Physical clutter creates mental friction that drains cognitive resources before meaningful work even begins. Every item competing for attention in your peripheral vision requires a small amount of mental energy to process and dismiss. These micro-distractions accumulate throughout the day, leaving you feeling exhausted without accomplishing significant tasks. The same principle applies to digital environments. Marcus, a software developer, kept 43 browser tabs open simultaneously while working on critical projects. Email notifications interrupted his coding sessions every few minutes, and his desktop displayed dozens of unorganized files. When Marcus reduced his digital workspace to one active browser tab and turned off all non-essential notifications, his programming output increased by nearly 60% within 2 weeks. How often do you find yourself mentally scattered because your environment demands constant decisions about what to ignore? The answer lies in creating spaces that support rather than hinder concentration. Mental clutter proves equally destructive to focused work. This invisible burden manifests as overloaded to-do lists containing 50 different tasks, conflicting commitments that create constant anxiety, and the persistent feeling that important things are being forgotten. Rachel, a project manager, carried a mental load of approximately 30 ongoing responsibilities that she juggled simultaneously. Her stress levels remained high, and sleep quality suffered as her mind raced through endless task combinations each night. The solution began with a complete task inventory. Rachel wrote down every commitment, responsibility, and recurring thought that occupied mental space. The list filled 3 pages and revealed the true scope of her cognitive overload. She then applied a simple categorization system: urgent and important, important but not urgent, urgent but not important, and neither urgent nor important. This exercise revealed that roughly 70% of her mental energy focused on tasks that provided minimal value. By eliminating or delegating non-essential items and clearly defining priorities, Rachel experienced immediate relief. Her sleep improved, decision-making became easier, and work quality increased substantially. The process of mental decluttering requires honest assessment of current commitments. Many people accumulate responsibilities the same way they accumulate physical possessions, gradually and without conscious consideration of the total burden. Every commitment carries an opportunity cost that prevents focus on more meaningful activities. Creating simplified environments follows a straightforward approach. Start with one small area and apply the principle of functional necessity. Keep only items that serve a specific purpose in your daily work. Remove everything else temporarily and notice how the space feels. Most people experience immediate calm and clarity when surrounded by only essential items. For digital spaces, implement the rule of single-purpose sessions. When writing, close all applications except your word processor. When researching, limit browser tabs to 3 or fewer. When communicating, handle all messages in dedicated time blocks rather than throughout the day. This approach prevents the cognitive switching costs that occur when attention jumps between different types of tasks. The practice of saying no becomes crucial for maintaining mental clarity. Each new commitment must pass a simple test. Does this align with my most important priorities? If the answer is unclear or negative, the commitment should be declined regardless of external pressure. This boundary setting protects the time and energy needed for deep work. What would your ideal work environment look like if you could eliminate every unnecessary distraction? This vision provides guidance for making specific changes that support better focus. Task organization follows similar principles of simplification. Instead of maintaining multiple to-do lists across different platforms, consolidate everything into one trusted system. David, an entrepreneur, previously used sticky notes, phone reminders, email drafts, and a paper planner simultaneously. Important tasks fell through the cracks, and he spent considerable time trying to remember what needed attention. By adopting a single digital task manager and weekly review process, David regained control over his commitments. He could see everything in one place, make informed decisions about priorities, and trust that nothing important would be forgotten. This system freed his mind to focus on execution rather than management. The weekly review process provides the maintenance needed to keep systems functional. Set aside 90 minutes each week to review completed tasks, adjust priorities, and plan the upcoming week. This investment prevents the gradual accumulation of mental clutter that inevitably occurs without regular maintenance. Letting go of unnecessary commitments often proves more challenging than organizing physical spaces. Social obligations, professional expectations, and personal habits create resistance to change. However, the freedom gained from reducing commitments far outweighs the temporary discomfort of disappointing others or changing routines. Consider the story of James, a consultant who belonged to 4 professional organizations, volunteered for 3 community groups, and maintained social commitments that filled every weekend. While these activities seemed valuable individually, their combined effect prevented him from pursuing a long-held dream of writing a book. By carefully evaluating each commitment against his core values and goals, James reduced his external obligations by 60%. The resulting time and energy enabled him to complete his book project within 18 months. The key insight is that having fewer commitments allows for greater impact in chosen areas. Quality of engagement improves when attention is not divided among too many competing priorities. This principle applies equally to professional projects, personal relationships, and leisure activities. Creating boundaries around time and attention requires ongoing vigilance. The modern world constantly generates new opportunities, requests, and distractions that can quickly overwhelm even well-organized systems. Regular assessment of commitments and environmental factors helps maintain the clarity needed for sustained focus. The benefits of decluttered spaces extend beyond immediate productivity gains. Simplified environments reduce stress, improve decision-making, and create conditions for creativity to flourish. When the mind is not constantly processing unnecessary information, it can engage more fully with meaningful work and derive greater satisfaction from accomplishments. This foundation of clarity and organization prepares you for the next level of focused work, where attention can be sustained on single tasks without the constant pull of competing demands. Part 2. One thing at a time. Modern life celebrates multitasking as a badge of honor, but mounting evidence suggests this approach undermines both quality and satisfaction. The human brain works best when focused on a single task, creating opportunities for deeper engagement and genuine accomplishment. When you commit fully to one activity at a time, you experience progress in its purest form, the satisfying completion of meaningful work done well. This section reveals why single tasking produces superior results and provides practical methods for resisting the temptation to juggle multiple priorities simultaneously. Marcus, a software engineer, used to pride himself on managing 5 different projects while answering emails and participating in video calls. His days felt incredibly busy, yet he struggled to finish anything meaningful. Each task received partial attention, leading to constant revision and growing frustration. Everything seemed urgent, but nothing felt important. Sound familiar? Research conducted at Stanford University revealed that people who regularly multitask perform worse on every cognitive measure tested. Heavy multitaskers showed reduced ability to filter irrelevant information, organize working memory, and switch between tasks efficiently. The very skill they thought they were developing was actually deteriorating with practice. Consider how your smartphone notifications create artificial urgency throughout the day. Each ping triggers a mental switch that takes an average of 23 minutes to fully recover from. When you attempt to write a report while checking messages, your brain constantly shifts between different types of processing. The report suffers because your mind never settles into the deeper thinking required for quality work. Elena, a marketing director, decided to experiment with single tasking after noticing her creative work lacked depth. She began dedicating uninterrupted blocks to campaign development, turning off all notifications and closing unnecessary browser tabs. Within weeks, her campaigns showed marked improvement in originality and strategic thinking. More importantly, she felt genuinely satisfied with her work for the first time in months. The myth of multitasking efficiency crumbles under real-world testing. What people call multitasking is actually rapid task switching, and each switch carries a cognitive cost. Your brain must reorient itself to new rules, contexts, and objectives. This mental overhead accumulates throughout the day, leaving you exhausted despite accomplishing less than focused colleagues. How often do you start your day with clear intentions, only to find yourself scattered across multiple activities by noon? This pattern creates what researchers call attention residue. Part of your mind remains stuck on previous tasks, even as you move to new ones. Single tasking requires deliberate practice and environmental design. Start by identifying your most important daily task and protecting dedicated time for its completion. Remove potential distractions from your workspace before beginning. Close email applications, silence phones, and inform colleagues about your focused work periods. Thomas, a financial analyst, transformed his productivity by implementing task batching, grouping similar activities together rather than mixing them throughout the day. He dedicated morning hours exclusively to complex analysis, handled all emails in 2 scheduled blocks, and reserved afternoons for meetings. This approach eliminated constant context switching and allowed deeper engagement with each type of work. The benefits of single tasking extend beyond productivity metrics. When you give full attention to one activity, you enter what psychologists call flow state, a condition of complete absorption where time seems to slow down and work feels effortless. This state produces both higher quality results and genuine satisfaction. Creating single-task success requires restructuring how you approach daily work. Begin each morning by selecting one primary objective that deserves your best thinking. Schedule this work during your peak energy hours, typically the first few hours after waking. Treat this time as sacred, declining meetings and avoiding reactive activities. What would change in your work quality if you gave each task your complete attention? The answer often surprises people who have spent years fragmenting their focus across multiple priorities simultaneously. Jenny, a research scientist, discovered that her breakthrough insights emerged only during extended periods of concentrated thinking. By protecting 3-hour blocks for deep analysis, she produced more significant findings in 6 months than she had in the previous 2 years of scattered work patterns. The transition to single-tasking challenges ingrained habits and social expectations. Colleagues may expect immediate responses to messages, or you might feel guilty for not juggling multiple responsibilities. Remember that effectiveness matters more than the appearance of busyness. Quality work completed with full attention creates more value than numerous tasks done poorly. Practice starting small with 25-minute focus sessions on single tasks. Gradually extend these periods as your concentration strengthens. Notice how different this feels from your usual fragmented approach. The sense of completion and progress that comes from finishing one thing well provides motivation to continue this practice. Part 3. The Deep Work Ritual. Creating a deep work ritual transforms scattered efforts into powerful periods of sustained concentration. This practice involves deliberately designing uninterrupted blocks of time where your most important work receives complete attention. Like a skilled craftsperson who creates masterpieces through focused dedication, individuals who master deep work rituals consistently produce their best results. The key lies in establishing clear boundaries, eliminating distractions, and gradually building the mental stamina needed for extended focus. These rituals become the foundation for extraordinary achievement, turning ordinary work sessions into periods of remarkable productivity and satisfaction. Consider what happened when Rachel, a software developer, struggled to complete complex coding projects. Her days were fragmented by constant emails, Slack messages, and impromptu meetings. Every time she gained momentum on a challenging problem, an interruption would break her concentration. Rachel decided to experiment with a deep work ritual that would change everything. She started by identifying her most mentally demanding tasks and scheduling 2-hour blocks each morning for these projects. During these periods, she turned off all notifications, put her phone in another room, and placed a small sign on her desk that read, "Deep Work in Progress." The first week felt uncomfortable. Her mind kept reaching for distractions, and she found herself checking her phone reflexively, even though it wasn't there. By the third week, something shifted. Rachel noticed she could hold complex programming concepts in her mind for longer periods. Problems that previously took days to solve were completed in single sessions. Her code quality improved dramatically, and she experienced a sense of satisfaction she hadn't felt in years. The ritual created a protected space where her best thinking could emerge. What makes a deep work ritual effective? The answer lies in its predictability and protection. Your brain learns to expect focused work during specific times and conditions. This mental preparation reduces the energy needed to resist distractions and helps you enter a state of concentration more quickly. Start building your ritual by choosing a consistent time and place. Morning hours often work best because decision fatigue hasn't accumulated yet. Create physical boundaries that signal deep work time. This might mean closing your office door, wearing noise-canceling headphones, or working in a specific location reserved for focused tasks. Technology presents the biggest challenge to deep work. Consider Marcus, a marketing manager who discovered that his phone was the primary obstacle to sustained focus. He implemented a simple rule. During deep work sessions, his phone stayed in a drawer across the room. This physical distance eliminated the unconscious habit of checking it every few minutes. The transition to phone-free work felt jarring at first. Marcus realized how often he relied on his device for quick dopamine hits. But within 2 weeks, he noticed his ability to think through complex marketing strategies had improved significantly. Ideas that previously required multiple scattered sessions now flowed during single focused periods. How long should deep work sessions last? Begin with what feels manageable rather than what seems impressive. Many people start with 90-minute blocks because this aligns with natural attention cycles. As your concentration strengthens, you can extend these periods. Elena, a research scientist, began with 45-minute sessions because longer periods felt overwhelming. She used a simple timer and committed to working on one project until it rang. No emails, no quick tasks, no exceptions. After 6 weeks of consistent practice, she naturally extended her sessions to 2 hours. Her research productivity doubled, and she published more papers that year than in the previous 3 combined. Creating boundaries requires saying no to interruptions, even when they seem urgent. This challenges social expectations and workplace norms. Colleagues may expect immediate responses to messages, or you might feel obligated to attend every meeting. Remember that protecting your deep work time serves everyone's interests by ensuring your highest quality contributions. The ritual extends beyond just blocking time. Successful deep work practitioners develop pre-session routines that prepare their minds for focus. This might include reviewing project goals, clearing the workspace, or spending 5 minutes planning the session's objectives. These small actions create mental momentum toward concentrated effort. Consider the environment carefully. Some people need complete silence, while others work better with specific background sounds. Temperature, lighting, and comfort all affect sustained attention. Tom, a financial analyst, discovered that working in a slightly cool room with natural light helped him maintain focus for longer periods. He adjusted his office setup and noticed immediate improvements in his analytical work. What obstacles prevent consistent deep work? The most common include underestimating setup time, choosing overly ambitious session lengths, and failing to plan specific work objectives. Address these by building transition time into your schedule, starting with shorter sessions and defining clear goals before beginning. Gradually building capacity requires patience with yourself. Like physical exercise, mental concentration strengthens with consistent practice. Expect some sessions to feel more difficult than others. The key is maintaining the routine even when motivation wavers. Deep work rituals create compound benefits over time. The immediate advantage is higher quality output in less time. The long-term benefit is developing the rare ability to think deeply about complex problems. In a world filled with distractions, this skill becomes increasingly valuable. Your ritual should evolve as you learn what works best. Some people discover they need specific music, while others require complete silence. Some work best in the same location daily, while others benefit from occasional changes. Pay attention to what conditions produce your best thinking and adjust accordingly. The satisfaction that comes from completing meaningful work through sustained focus reinforces the habit. Unlike the scattered feeling that comes from fragmented work, deep work sessions provide a sense of genuine accomplishment. This positive reinforcement makes the ritual easier to maintain over time. Part 4. Guarding your golden hours. Every person has certain hours of the day when their mind operates at its absolute best. During these precious windows, thoughts flow more clearly, problems seem easier to solve, and work that normally takes hours can be completed in far less time. The science of chronobiology shows us that our bodies follow natural rhythms that make us more alert and capable at specific times. When you learn to identify and protect these periods, you gain access to a productivity advantage that no app or system can replicate. This knowledge transforms not just how much you accomplish, but the quality of what you create. Marcus, a software engineer, struggled for years with inconsistent productivity. Some days he would code brilliantly, solving complex problems with ease. Other days, the same type of work felt impossible, leading to frustration and long hours with little to show for it. Everything changed when he started tracking his energy levels every hour for 2 weeks. He discovered that his mind was sharpest between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m., but he had been using this time for emails and meetings. When he switched his most challenging programming work to these morning hours, his output doubled while his stress decreased significantly. The concept of peak performance times is not new, but most people ignore their natural patterns. Research shows that individuals typically experience 1 to 3 periods of peak alertness each day. For many people, the first peak occurs in the morning, typically between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. A second peak often appears in the late afternoon, around 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. However, these patterns vary greatly between individuals based on genetics, age, and lifestyle factors. Lisa, a marketing director, discovered her golden hours fell between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. This surprised her because she had always assumed mornings were supposed to be most productive. By moving her strategic planning and creative work to the afternoon and handling routine tasks in the morning, she found herself generating better ideas and making decisions more quickly. Her team noticed the improvement in the quality of her contributions during afternoon meetings. What makes you feel most alert during different parts of your day? Pay attention to when complex thinking feels effortless versus when it requires significant effort. To identify your golden hours, conduct a simple experiment. For 1 week, rate your energy and mental clarity every 2 hours on a scale of 1 to 10. Note when you feel most capable of handling challenging tasks and when your mind feels foggy or scattered. Look for patterns that repeat across multiple days. Some people are natural morning people, while others peak in the afternoon or evening. There is no right or wrong pattern, only what works for your unique biology. Once you identify these periods, protecting them becomes critical. Rachel, a financial analyst, realized her best hours were between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. She made 3 key changes to guard this time. First, she stopped checking emails until after 10 a.m. Second, she blocked her calendar during these hours and labeled the time as unavailable for meetings. Third, she prepared the night before by organizing everything needed for her most important work. These simple boundaries allowed her to complete her most demanding analysis during peak mental state. The protection of golden hours requires saying no to activities that seem urgent but are not truly important. Many people fill their best hours with busy work because these tasks feel easier to tackle when energy is high. This approach wastes your most valuable resource. Instead, use peak times for work that requires deep thinking, creativity, or complex problem solving. Save routine tasks like emails, filing, or administrative work for periods when your energy naturally dips. Consider how different types of work align with your energy patterns. Creative tasks often benefit from peak energy periods, while routine maintenance work can be done during lower energy times. Phone calls and meetings might work well during moderate energy periods, but avoid scheduling them during your absolute peak unless the conversation requires your best thinking. James, a consultant, restructured his entire day around this principle. He moved client strategy sessions to his morning peak hours and handled invoicing and administrative tasks in the late afternoon when his energy naturally declined. This simple change improved the quality of his strategic recommendations and reduced the time needed for routine tasks, since he was not wasting high-energy periods on low-value activities. Environmental factors play a crucial role in maximizing your golden hours. Identify what conditions support your peak performance. Some people need complete silence, while others work better with background music. Natural light can enhance alertness for many individuals, while others prefer dimmer settings. Temperature, air quality, and even the cleanliness of your workspace can impact your ability to think clearly during these precious hours. Building routines around your golden hours creates predictability that your mind and body can rely on. Start each peak period with a consistent ritual that signals to your brain that it is time for focused work. This might involve brewing a specific type of tea, reviewing your objectives for the session, or spending 5 minutes organizing your workspace. These small actions prime your mind for the important work ahead. How might your current schedule change if you prioritized your most important work during your highest energy periods? The compound effect of consistently using your golden hours for meaningful work creates remarkable results over time. When you align your most challenging tasks with your natural energy peaks, you accomplish more in less time while experiencing less fatigue. This efficiency creates space for other important aspects of life, including rest, relationships, and personal interests. Protection strategies must be firm but realistic. You cannot always control when meetings happen or when emergencies arise. However, you can control how you respond to these demands. Build flexibility into your approach by having backup plans for when your golden hours get interrupted. If a morning person loses their peak hours to an urgent meeting, they might use their secondary peak time in the afternoon for important work instead of routine tasks. The key is treating your golden hours as sacred time that requires intentional protection. This means communicating boundaries to colleagues, turning off notifications during peak periods, and preparing in advance to minimize interruptions. Your golden hours represent your greatest opportunity to create meaningful progress on what matters most. When you honor these natural rhythms, You work with your biology rather than against it, leading to better results with less effort. Chapter 3. Beating Procrastination. Part 1. The frog on your plate. Managing your daily tasks becomes dramatically easier when you start with the most difficult one first. This simple yet powerful approach can transform your entire relationship with procrastination and productivity. The metaphor of eating the frog represents tackling your most challenging, important, or dreaded task at the beginning of your day. By mastering this technique, you create momentum that carries you through everything else with greater ease and confidence. The psychological shift from avoidance to action builds a foundation of accomplishment that energizes your entire day. Picture Rachel, a marketing manager who dreaded making difficult client calls. Every morning, she would check emails, organize her desk, and attend to minor tasks while the important call loomed over her thoughts. This pattern continued for weeks until she decided to make the call first thing each morning. Within days, Rachel noticed that completing this challenging task early gave her energy and confidence for everything else. The rest of her day felt lighter and more manageable. Our brains naturally resist tasks that feel overwhelming, uncomfortable, or uncertain. This resistance stems from an ancient survival mechanism that interprets difficulty as potential danger. When we avoid these tasks, we create a mental loop where the avoided task grows larger in our minds. The anticipation of doing something difficult often feels worse than actually doing it. Consider how James, a small business owner, avoided updating his financial records for months. The task felt enormous and stressful, so he pushed it aside daily. When he finally sat down to tackle it, he discovered it took only 2 hours to complete. The mental energy he spent avoiding the task for months far exceeded the actual effort required. What specific task have you been avoiding that might be smaller than it appears in your mind? The key to eating your frog lies in proper identification. Your frog is typically the task that will have the greatest positive impact on your goals, but feels most challenging to start. It might be the project with the closest deadline, the conversation you need to have, or the decision you keep postponing. These tasks often share common characteristics. They require focused thinking, involve some risk or uncertainty, or demand skills that feel challenging. Start by writing down 3 tasks that you consistently avoid or postpone. Examine each one and ask yourself what makes it feel difficult. Is it the complexity, the emotional weight, or simply the unknown outcome? Often, breaking down why we avoid something helps reduce its power over us. Maria, a freelance writer, identified her frog as reaching out to potential new clients. She realized her avoidance stemmed from fear of rejection rather than the actual difficulty of the task. Once she recognized this pattern, she scheduled client outreach for the first hour of each workday. This simple change doubled her client base within 3 months. The timing of when you eat your frog matters significantly. Your mental energy and willpower are typically highest in the morning, making it the ideal time for challenging tasks. Research shows that decision-making ability and focus decline throughout the day as we use our mental resources. By tackling your most important task early, you leverage your peak cognitive performance. Create a morning routine that leads directly to your frog. Remove as many barriers as possible by preparing materials the night before. If your frog involves making calls, have the numbers ready. If it requires writing, open the document and have your notes organized. The goal is to minimize the friction between waking up and starting your most important work. Tom, a software developer, struggled with code reviews that required deep concentration. He started doing these reviews immediately after his morning coffee, before checking messages or attending meetings. This simple change improved both the quality of his reviews and his overall job satisfaction. How could you restructure your morning routine to tackle your most important task first? The psychological benefits of eating your frog extend far beyond task completion. When you consistently handle difficult tasks first, you build what researchers call self-efficacy, confidence in your ability to handle challenges. This confidence creates a positive cycle where each completed difficult task makes the next one feel more manageable. The momentum from completing your frog carries through to other tasks. You approach the rest of your day with a sense of accomplishment already established. This feeling contrasts sharply with the heaviness that comes from carrying an avoided task throughout the day. Lisa, a project manager, noticed that when she completed her most challenging task first, she felt more creative and solution-oriented for the remainder of the day. When she procrastinated on the difficult task, she felt sluggish and distracted, even during simpler activities. Some days will present multiple frogs. In these situations, eat the biggest, ugliest frog first. Choose the task that will create the most significant positive impact or the one you're most tempted to avoid. Remember that you can only eat one frog at a time, so resist the urge to jump between challenging tasks. The practice of eating your frog becomes easier with repetition. Start with a commitment to try this approach for 1 week. Notice how it affects your energy levels, your sense of accomplishment, and your overall productivity. Many people find that this single change transforms their relationship with challenging tasks. What would change in your life if you consistently tackled your most important task first thing each morning? Part 2. Small wins, big changes. Breaking down overwhelming tasks into manageable pieces transforms impossible mountains into walkable hills. When we view large projects as single, massive undertakings, our brains often respond with paralysis or avoidance. However, the science of motivation reveals that small, achievable victories create powerful momentum that builds upon itself. This approach to progress works because it activates our brain's reward system repeatedly, generating enthusiasm and confidence that carries us forward. Understanding how to harness the power of incremental progress can transform your relationship with challenging work and help you achieve goals that once seemed unreachable. Marcus, a freelance graphic designer, faced a common challenge that nearly derailed his career. He had landed his biggest client yet, a complete brand redesign project worth 6 months of income. The scope felt overwhelming. Logo design, website mock-ups, business cards, letterheads, packaging concepts, and a comprehensive brand guide. For 3 weeks, Marcus stared at his blank computer screen, paralyzed by the enormity of the task. Each day that passed without progress increased his anxiety and decreased his confidence. The breakthrough came when Marcus's mentor suggested a different approach. Instead of viewing the project as one massive deliverable, she helped him break it into 23 distinct tasks. The first task was simply to research 3 competitor brands and save 10 images that represented the client's desired aesthetic. This single task took Marcus 45 minutes to complete, but something remarkable happened when he checked it off his list. The completion triggered a small surge of accomplishment that motivated him to tackle the next mini-task, sketching 5 rough logo concepts. Within 2 hours, Marcus had completed 3 tasks and felt genuine momentum for the first time in weeks. The project that had seemed impossible suddenly felt manageable because he could see concrete progress. What makes our brains respond so positively to these small victories? Research in neuroscience shows that completing tasks releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and motivation. This chemical reward creates a feedback loop where each small win makes us more likely to pursue the next task. The key lies in designing tasks small enough that completion feels inevitable rather than uncertain. How might your current overwhelming project change if you broke it into tasks that could each be completed in under an hour? This question helps identify the optimal size for meaningful progress without exhaustion. Emma, a marketing manager, discovered this principle while planning her company's annual conference. The event required coordinating venues, speakers, catering, registration systems, promotional materials, and dozens of other details. Previous years had involved months of stress and last-minute scrambling. This time, Emma created a master list of every task, no matter how small, then organized them into weekly mini-goals. Week 1 focused entirely on venue research and booking. Week 2 concentrated on identifying and contacting potential speakers. By breaking the planning into focused weekly themes, Emma transformed conference planning from a source of dread into a series of manageable projects. Each completed week provided clear evidence of progress and built confidence for the remaining work. The power of small wins extends beyond task completion into skill development and habit formation. James, a software developer learning a new programming language, initially attempted to study for 3-hour blocks on weekends. The sessions felt overwhelming and often ended in frustration when complex concepts didn't immediately make sense. Switching to 20-minute daily practice sessions created a dramatic shift. Each short session allowed James to master one small concept completely before moving forward. The 20-minute approach proved more effective than longer study periods because it prevented mental fatigue and allowed for better retention. Within 3 months of consistent daily practice, James had developed stronger programming skills than his previous marathon study sessions had produced in 6 months. Perfectionism often disguises itself as high standards, but frequently serves as procrastination in expensive clothing. When we demand perfection from ourselves, we create an impossible standard that justifies inaction. The alternative involves focusing on progress over perfection, embracing what researchers call good enough solutions that can be improved over time. Consider the difference between perfectionist thinking and progress-focused thinking. A perfectionist might think, I can't start writing my report until I have all the research completed and perfectly organized. A progress-focused approach might be, I'll write one section based on what I know now, then improve it as I gather more information. Lisa, a small business owner, struggled to launch her company website because she wanted every detail perfect before going live. Months passed as she revised copy, adjusted designs, and added features. Finally, her business coach challenged her to launch a minimum viable website with just the essential information. Within 1 week, Lisa had a functional site online. Over the following months, she gradually improved and expanded the site based on actual user feedback rather than imagined perfect requirements. The minimum viable approach allowed Lisa to start generating leads and feedback immediately instead of losing months to perfectionist paralysis. Her business grew faster because she chose progress over perfection. Creating effective mini-goals requires understanding what makes goals motivating versus discouraging. Effective mini-goals share several characteristics. They can be completed in one sitting, their completion is entirely within your control, and they produce visible evidence of progress. Ineffective mini-goals often depend on other people's responses, require perfect conditions, or lack clear completion criteria. For example, send 5 networking emails creates a better mini-goal than get 5 people to respond to networking emails. The first goal depends entirely on your action, while the second depends on other people's choices. Both contribute to networking success, but only the first provides the immediate sense of accomplishment that fuels continued action. What aspect of your current challenges could you address with a single action that depends only on your effort? This type of thinking helps identify the building blocks of larger achievements. Tony, a recent college graduate, felt overwhelmed by his job search. Traditional advice suggested applying to multiple positions daily, but the process felt daunting and often led to discouragement when applications disappeared into company databases without response. Tony restructured his approach around small, specific daily actions, researched 2 companies thoroughly, customize his resume for one specific position, and send one personalized connection request on professional networks. This approach transformed job searching from an overwhelming daily grind into a series of accomplishable tasks. Each day provided clear evidence of progress, even when responses didn't come immediately. The consistent action also improved the quality of Tony's applications because he could focus attention on fewer, more targeted opportunities. Celebrating small wins requires intentional recognition that many people skip in their rush toward larger goals. However, acknowledgement serves as fuel for continued effort. Celebration doesn't require elaborate rewards. Simple recognition often provides sufficient motivation. The key lies in matching the celebration to the significance of the accomplishment while maintaining proportionality. Effective celebration might involve checking tasks off a visible list, sharing progress with a supportive friend, or taking a short break to acknowledge effort. The goal involves creating positive associations with the work itself, rather than only finding satisfaction in final outcomes. Remember that motivation follows action more often than action follows motivation. Starting with small, manageable tasks creates momentum that generates motivation for larger challenges. This understanding helps explain why waiting for perfect motivation often leads to extended inaction, while taking small actions often leads to increased enthusiasm for continued work. The compound effect of small wins creates results that seem disproportionate to individual efforts. Like interest earning interest in financial investments, each small victory builds capability and confidence that makes subsequent achievements more likely and more significant. This multiplication effect explains how consistent small actions often produce more dramatic results than sporadic large efforts. Part 3. Turning starts into finishes. The gap between starting and finishing projects represents one of the most frustrating aspects of personal productivity. Most people excel at generating ideas and beginning new ventures with enthusiasm, yet struggle to maintain that energy through completion. Understanding why we abandon projects halfway through and developing systems to bridge this gap can transform both our results and our self-confidence. This pattern affects everyone from students leaving assignments unfinished to entrepreneurs with dozens of half-completed business ideas. Learning to become someone who finishes what they start creates a powerful reputation and opens doors that remain closed to perpetual starters. Emma started her online bakery with tremendous excitement. She spent weeks designing the perfect logo, researching recipes, and creating social media accounts. 3 months later, she had never actually sold a single cupcake. Her story reflects a common pattern where the initial burst of motivation carries us through the fun planning phase, but fades when the real work begins. The science behind this pattern reveals that our brains release dopamine when we anticipate rewards, making the start of projects feel naturally exciting. However, as novelty wears off and challenges emerge, this chemical boost disappears. The middle phase of any project often involves tedious tasks, problem-solving, and persistence through obstacles that feel far less rewarding than the initial creative burst. Research shows that people typically abandon projects at predictable points. The first major drop-off occurs around 20% completion, when initial enthusiasm meets first real obstacles. The second happens around 70% completion, a phenomenon psychologists call the middle problem, where the finish line seems both close and impossibly far away. Marcus, a software developer, recognized this pattern in his side projects. He had started building 12 different mobile apps over 2 years, but completed none. After studying his own behavior, he discovered that he consistently lost interest once the coding moved beyond the exciting architecture phase into debugging and user interface refinement. Have you noticed specific points where you typically abandon projects? What patterns can you identify in your own starting and stopping behaviors? Creating systems for sustained momentum requires addressing both the emotional and practical aspects of project completion. The emotional challenge involves maintaining motivation when excitement fades. The practical challenge involves organizing work to minimize friction and maintain forward progress, even during difficult phases. One effective approach involves the 2-day rule, where you never allow more than 2 days to pass without making some progress on important projects. This prevents the complete loss of momentum that makes restarting feel overwhelming. Even 15 minutes of work maintains the psychological connection to the project and keeps relevant details fresh in memory. Lisa applied this principle to writing her novel. Instead of waiting for perfect 3-hour writing blocks, she committed to writing at least 1 paragraph every day. Some days produced chapters, others just a few sentences. However, the daily connection prevented the project from feeling foreign or abandoned, and she completed her first draft in 8 months. Accountability mechanisms provide external motivation when internal drive weakens. This might involve progress reports to a friend, public commitments on social media, or joining groups focused on completion rather than just starting. The key is creating social pressure that makes abandonment uncomfortable. The implementation intention technique helps bridge the gap between planning and action. Instead of vague commitments like "I will work on my project," create specific if-then statements. If it is Tuesday at 7 p.m., then I will spend 30 minutes editing Chapter 3. This specificity reduces decision fatigue and makes continuation more automatic. What accountability systems have worked for you in the past? Who in your life could serve as an effective accountability partner for your current projects? Progress tracking serves multiple psychological functions beyond simple measurement. Visible progress creates satisfaction that motivates continued effort. Breaking large projects into smaller milestones makes completion feel more achievable and provides more frequent success experiences. David used a simple spreadsheet to track his progress learning Spanish. Instead of just noting study sessions, he recorded specific achievements: new vocabulary words learned, conversations completed, or grammar concepts mastered. Seeing concrete evidence of accumulation made the long-term goal feel more attainable and provided motivation during difficult periods. The backwards planning method works particularly well for complex projects. Start with the desired completion date and work backwards, identifying all necessary steps and their deadlines. This approach reveals potential bottlenecks early and creates a realistic timeline that accounts for obstacles and delays. Creating rewards for intermediate progress helps maintain motivation throughout long projects. These should be proportional to the achievement and genuinely enjoyable. Completing a difficult chapter might earn a favorite meal, while finishing a major project section could justify a weekend trip. However, avoid rewards that conflict with your ultimate goals. If you're trying to improve fitness, celebrate progress with new workout clothes rather than unhealthy food. If building a business, reinvest early profits rather than spending them on unrelated luxuries. The concept of minimum viable progress prevents perfectionism from blocking completion. Instead of waiting for perfect conditions or flawless execution, focus on creating something complete that can be improved later. A finished first draft serves you better than 10 perfect pages of an unfinished manuscript. Rachel struggled with perfectionism in her consulting business. She would spend weeks perfecting proposals that clients often wanted modified anyway. By switching to a good enough to start approach, she began sending proposals within days and refining them based on actual client feedback rather than imagined requirements. What standards are you holding yourself to that might be preventing completion rather than ensuring quality? Building systems that make finishing feel as rewarding as starting requires deliberate design. Document your completed projects and regularly review this evidence of capability. Create rituals that mark project completion, making the ending feel significant rather than anticlimactic. The reputation for follow-through becomes self-reinforcing. When others know you finish what you start, they offer more significant opportunities and partnerships. This external recognition provides additional motivation and raises the stakes for maintaining your completion rate. Consider implementing a project graveyard where you formally decide to abandon projects that no longer serve your goals. This conscious choice prevents half-finished projects from creating ongoing guilt while preserving lessons learned and potentially useful components for future work. Developing strong finishing skills transforms both your results and your identity. Moving from someone who has good ideas to someone who executes good ideas completely changes how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. This shift creates opportunities that exist only for people with proven track records of completion. The compound effect of finishing projects extends beyond individual achievements. Each completion builds confidence, improves your systems, and creates momentum for tackling larger challenges. This progression eventually makes finishing feel as natural and automatic as starting once did. Part 4. The joy of progress. Progress matters more than perfection. When we shift our focus from flawless outcomes to steady improvement, we discover a sustainable source of motivation that carries us through challenges and setbacks. This approach transforms how we experience productivity and helps us maintain momentum even when results feel uncertain. Rather than waiting for perfect conditions or dramatic breakthroughs, we learn to find genuine satisfaction in the daily practice of getting better at what matters most. Carlos worked as a software developer who constantly criticized himself for not being fast enough. He would start projects with enthusiasm, but quickly become discouraged when his code didn't match his vision immediately. His manager noticed this pattern and suggested a different approach. Instead of focusing on completing perfect features, Carlos began tracking smaller metrics: lines of code written, bugs fixed, and new concepts learned each day. Within weeks, his attitude changed dramatically. He still encountered problems, but now he saw them as natural parts of the learning process rather than personal failures. The science behind progress-focused thinking reveals why this approach works so well. Our brains release dopamine not just when we achieve goals, but also when we make measurable progress toward them. This means the journey itself becomes rewarding, creating positive feedback loops that sustain motivation over time. When we celebrate small improvements, we literally rewire our neural pathways to associate effort with pleasure, rather than just outcomes with satisfaction. Alina, a freelance writer, struggled with comparing her work to established authors. She felt discouraged when her articles didn't immediately gain thousands of readers. Her mentor suggested keeping a progress journal where she recorded one thing she learned or improved each day. Some days it was a new writing technique. Other days it was better time management or clearer communication with clients. After 3 months, Elena realized she had accumulated dozens of small improvements that collectively transformed her skills and confidence. What specific areas of your life would benefit from tracking progress rather than just measuring final results? The practice of reflection becomes essential for recognizing progress that might otherwise go unnoticed. Many people discount their improvements because they happen gradually. A simple weekly review where you ask yourself 3 questions can change this pattern. What did I learn this week? What worked better than before? What challenged me in a way that helped me grow? These questions train your mind to notice development rather than just problems or gaps. Marcus ran a small marketing agency and felt overwhelmed by the gap between his current skills and where he wanted to be. Every client meeting reminded him of techniques he hadn't mastered yet. His business coach introduced a different perspective. Instead of focusing on what he lacked, Marcus began documenting evidence of his growth. He kept screenshots of successful campaigns, saved positive client feedback, and noted new strategies he had implemented. This simple practice revealed patterns of improvement that had been invisible when he only focused on future goals. Self-compassion plays a crucial role in maintaining progress-focused motivation. When we treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a good friend, setbacks become learning opportunities rather than reasons for self-criticism. This doesn't mean lowering standards or accepting poor performance. Instead, it means recognizing that improvement requires experimentation, and experimentation inevitably includes failures that provide valuable information. The compound effect of progress-focused thinking extends beyond individual tasks. When you consistently acknowledge small improvements, you build what researchers call a growth mindset. This mental framework sees abilities as developable rather than fixed, making you more resilient when facing challenges. People with growth mindsets recover faster from setbacks because they interpret difficulties as temporary obstacles rather than permanent limitations. Nina worked in customer service and felt stuck in repetitive conversations that drained her energy. She began experimenting with small changes, asking different questions, trying new ways to explain solutions, and focusing on truly understanding each customer's situation. Some approaches failed, but she treated these as data points rather than defeats. Over 6 months, these small experiments transformed both her job satisfaction and her performance ratings. Her willingness to find progress in daily interactions eventually led to a promotion to a training role where she helped other representatives develop similar skills. How might your current challenges look different if you viewed them as opportunities to practice and improve, rather than tests to pass or fail? Gratitude amplifies the joy found in progress. When we actively appreciate the effort we invest in the growth we experience, we create positive associations with the process of improvement itself. This isn't about forced optimism or ignoring real problems. Instead, it's about training attention to notice what's working alongside what needs improvement. A practical framework for progress-focused productivity involves 3 daily practices. First, identify one specific thing you want to improve today, no matter how small. Second, notice and record evidence of that improvement, even if it's subtle. Third, acknowledge the effort you invested, regardless of the outcome. This approach gradually shifts your relationship with productivity from outcome-dependent to process-focused. The transformation from perfection-seeking to progress-celebrating often reveals surprising insights about what truly matters. When you're not constantly judging whether results meet impossible standards, you become more experimental and creative. You take calculated risks because failure becomes information rather than identity damage. This mindset shift often leads to better outcomes precisely because you're less attached to specific results and more committed to the process of improvement. Progress-focused thinking also changes how you experience time. Instead of viewing unfinished projects as failures, you see them as ongoing developments. This perspective reduces the anxiety that comes from feeling behind schedule and increases patience with the natural rhythm of meaningful work. You begin to trust that consistent effort in the right direction produces results, even when the timeline feels uncertain. Chapter 4. Living Your 4,000 Weeks Part 1. Time as a Gift. Modern society treats time like money in a bank account, constantly worrying about spending it wisely and maximizing returns. But what if we completely change this perspective? Instead of viewing time as a scarce resource that requires careful hoarding and strategic allocation, imagine seeing each day as an unexpected gift waiting to be opened with gratitude and intention. This shift in mindset transforms everything about how we experience our days, from the mundane morning routines to the significant life decisions. When we stop fighting against time and start flowing with it, we discover a profound sense of peace and purpose that no productivity hack can provide. Elena used to set 5 alarms every morning, rushing through breakfast while checking emails and planning her entire day during her commute. She measured success by how many tasks she completed and felt guilty whenever she took breaks. Everything changed after a health scare forced her to slow down for 3 weeks. During recovery, she noticed things she had missed for years: her neighbor's garden blooming, her daughter's laugh echoing from the backyard, the way sunlight moved across her kitchen table throughout the day. This experience taught Elena something profound. Time wasn't disappearing faster when she slowed down. Instead, she was finally present enough to actually experience it. Research in neuroscience shows that when we rush through activities, our brains process experiences differently, creating fewer detailed memories and reducing our sense of time richness. Consider how children experience time compared to adults. A child can spend an entire afternoon building sandcastles, completely absorbed in the process without checking clocks or worrying about productivity. They naturally understand what adults often forget. Presence expands our experience of time rather than contracting it. Marcus, a busy executive, discovered this principle during a weekend camping trip with his son. Without phone service or scheduled meetings, he found himself genuinely listening to his child's stories around the campfire. That single conversation felt more meaningful than weeks of rushed bedtime routines at home. The Japanese concept of mono no aware captures this beautifully. It describes the bittersweet awareness of the impermanence of all things, leading to a gentle sadness and deeper appreciation for fleeting moments. When we recognize that every experience is temporary, we naturally become more present and grateful. How often do you rush through activities that could bring joy if approached with intention and presence? Practical transformation begins with simple awareness exercises. Start by choosing one routine activity each day to perform with complete attention. Whether washing dishes, walking to your car, or drinking morning coffee, treat these moments as meditation rather than obstacles to productivity. Professional therapist Amy Chen teaches clients the time gift exercise. Each morning, they identify 3 moments they want to savor that day. These might be as simple as feeling warm water during a shower, noticing clouds during lunch, or having an uninterrupted conversation with a family member. The results consistently surprise people. Participants report feeling like their days expand rather than contract. They experience less anxiety about time scarcity and more satisfaction with their daily experiences. This happens because conscious attention creates richer neural encoding, making experiences feel more substantial and memorable. Technology often works against this natural rhythm. Notifications fragment our attention, making us feel constantly behind and scattered. Creating boundaries becomes essential. David, a software developer, established analog hours each evening when all devices stay in another room. Initially uncomfortable, this practice gradually became his favorite part of each day. What activities in your current routine could become sources of joy if you approached them with curiosity instead of urgency. The shift toward viewing time as a gift also changes how we make decisions about commitments. Instead of asking, "Can I fit this in?" we start asking, "Does this deserve a portion of my precious time?" This subtle change in language creates profound changes in behavior. Small, intentional choices compound into significant life changes. Choosing to walk instead of drive occasionally, having phone conversations instead of texting, or eating meals without distractions gradually transforms our relationship with time from scarcity to abundance. Part 2. Moments that matter. Understanding which moments truly matter requires looking beyond our daily routines and urgent tasks to identify what creates lasting meaning in our lives. Most people rush through their days completing endless to-do lists without stopping to ask whether these activities contribute to their deepest sense of fulfillment. The ability to recognize and prioritize meaningful experiences becomes a skill that transforms not just how we spend our time, but how satisfied we feel with our choices. This exploration will guide you through identifying your most important relationships and experiences, creating a framework for making better decisions about your limited time, and developing practices that ensure your most valuable moments receive the attention they deserve. Marcus worked as a marketing director for 12 years before he realized something troubling. He could remember every project deadline and client meeting from the past month, but struggled to recall the last meaningful conversation he had with his teenage daughter. His calendar was packed with appointments, yet his life felt empty of the connections that once brought him joy. This recognition led him to examine which experiences had created his happiest memories and strongest relationships. The process of identifying moments that matter starts with reflection on your past. Think about the experiences that still bring a smile to your face years later. These rarely involve completing work projects or checking items off lists. Instead, they often center around shared laughter with friends, quiet conversations with loved ones, or moments when you felt most authentically yourself. Emma discovered this truth when her grandmother passed away. While sorting through old photographs, she found dozens of pictures from family gatherings she had almost skipped due to work commitments. The images showed her grandmother's face lighting up whenever Emma arrived. She realized these simple Sunday dinners had meant more to both of them than any work achievement she had prioritized instead. What memories from your past still make you feel grateful or joyful when you recall them? The common thread among these experiences often reveals what truly matters to you. Creating a framework for identifying meaningful moments requires understanding your core values. Values act as a compass, pointing toward activities and relationships that deserve your attention. When Marcus examined his happiest memories, he discovered they all involved teaching or mentoring others. This insight helped him recognize that spending time helping his daughter with her projects was not an interruption to his important work, but actually the most important work he could do. The challenge comes when urgent tasks compete with important relationships and experiences. Rebecca, a small business owner, faced this daily battle. Her phone constantly buzzed with client requests while her family waited for her attention at dinner. She created a simple test for herself. Will this matter in 10 years? Most client emails failed this test, while conversations with her children always passed. This question becomes powerful when applied consistently. Emergency meetings at work rarely matter in the long term, but the trust built through keeping promises to loved ones compounds over years. The birthday party you attend may seem less productive than working overtime, but the relationships strengthened through your presence create lasting value. Practical exercises help translate these insights into daily choices. Start by listing your 5 most treasured memories from the past year. Look for patterns in these experiences. Do they involve specific people, particular activities, or certain settings? This pattern reveals your personal formula for meaningful moments. Next, examine your current schedule and identify which activities align with this formula. David, a software engineer, realized his most meaningful moments involved creating something with his hands rather than sitting at a computer. He began scheduling time for woodworking projects, which initially felt selfish, but ultimately energized him for all his other responsibilities. The practice of intentional scheduling transforms how you use your calendar. Instead of filling every slot with tasks, you begin protecting time for what matters most. This might mean scheduling weekly phone calls with distant friends, daily walks with your spouse, or monthly adventures with your children. Lisa struggled with this concept until she started treating important relationships like important meetings. She scheduled regular coffee dates with her sister and blocked time for her son's bedtime stories. These appointments became non-negotiable, just like client meetings had been previously. What would your life look like if you protected time for your most important relationships as carefully as you protect time for work obligations? The Moments That Matter framework also applies to future planning. Rather than setting goals based on achievement or acquisition, focus on experiences and relationships you want to develop. This shift changes how you evaluate opportunities and commitments. When Rachel received a job offer that would double her salary but require extensive travel, she used her Moments That Matter criteria to make the decision. The higher income seemed attractive, but she realized it would prevent her from attending her aging parents' weekly dinners and her daughter's school events. She negotiated a lower salary with less travel, prioritizing presence over profit. Building this practice requires regular reflection and adjustment. Monthly reviews help you assess whether your actual time allocation matches your stated priorities. Many people discover significant gaps between what they claim to value and how they actually spend their days. Tom kept a simple journal for 1 month, noting activities that energized him versus those that drained him. He discovered that volunteer work at the local animal shelter brought him more satisfaction than networking events for his career. This insight led him to shift his schedule, spending less time on professional obligations that felt empty and more time on service that fulfilled him. The practice of identifying moments that matter does not mean avoiding all difficult or mundane tasks. Instead, it means approaching these necessary activities with clarity about why they serve your larger purposes. Household chores become acts of care for your family. Difficult conversations at work become opportunities to build trust and solve problems together. Creating your personal Moments That Matter list requires honesty about what truly brings you satisfaction versus what you think should bring you satisfaction. Many people pursue experiences that look meaningful on social media, but feel hollow in reality. The goal is identifying activities and relationships that generate genuine gratitude and connection. Your list should include both grand experiences and small daily moments. While vacation memories matter, so do regular bedtime routines with children, weekly coffee with a friend, or quiet time for personal reflection. The key is recognizing that meaningful moments come in many sizes and making intentional space for both. Regular practice of prioritizing these moments gradually transforms your relationship with time from scarcity to abundance. When you focus on what truly matters, even busy days feel purposeful rather than overwhelming. The peace that comes from living aligned with your values becomes its own reward, creating energy for everything else you need to accomplish. Part 3. Embracing imperfection. Perfect days don't exist, and the sooner we accept this truth, the more peace we can find with our 4,000 weeks. Despite our best intentions and careful planning, life consistently delivers missed deadlines, forgotten appointments, and days that feel completely out of control. The secret to sustainable time management lies not in achieving flawless execution, but in finding comfort with our beautifully imperfect human experience. Elena discovered this lesson during her most challenging month as a project manager. She had mapped out her schedule perfectly, blocked time for strategic work, and even prepared backup plans. Yet by week 2, a family emergency, unexpected client demands, and a computer crash had completely derailed her carefully crafted timeline. Instead of spiraling into self-criticism, she chose a different path. The pressure to optimize every moment creates an impossible standard. We tell ourselves that successful people never waste time, never procrastinate, and always make perfect choices with their hours. This myth damages our relationship with time and ourselves. Research in behavioral psychology shows that perfectionist tendencies actually decrease productivity and increase stress levels significantly. Consider Marcus, a small business owner who spent years beating himself up over unfinished tasks. Each evening brought guilt about emails left unanswered and projects pushed to tomorrow. His breakthrough came when he realized that completion was less important than contribution. Some tasks simply weren't worth finishing perfectly, and others didn't need to be finished at all. What would change if you gave yourself permission to be human with your time? The question isn't whether you'll face imperfect days, but how you'll respond when they arrive. Flexibility becomes more valuable than rigid schedules when real life intervenes. Professional athletes understand this principle deeply. They know that missing shots is part of the game, not a character flaw. Tennis player coaching emphasizes recovery from mistakes rather than avoiding them entirely. The same mindset applies to time management. Your response to imperfection matters more than achieving perfection itself. Amy transformed her relationship with productivity by implementing what she called good enough standards. Instead of spending hours perfecting every email, she sent clear, concise messages. Rather than researching every decision endlessly, she made informed choices and moved forward. This shift freed up 12 hours per week for activities that truly mattered to her family and career growth. The guilt we carry about imperfect time use often weighs more than the actual missed opportunities. Neuroscience research reveals that ruminating about past mistakes activates the same stress responses as current threats. This mental pattern steals present moments while offering no practical benefits. Building self-compassion around time management requires practice. Start by treating yourself with the same kindness you'd show a good friend facing similar challenges. When plans fall apart, ask what you can learn rather than what you did wrong. This approach creates space for growth without the emotional drain of harsh self-judgment. Real progress happens through consistent effort over time, not through perfect days. The executive who writes for 15 minutes daily, even imperfectly, will complete more meaningful work than someone waiting for the perfect 4-hour writing block. Small, imperfect actions compound into significant results. Sometimes our most productive periods emerge from seemingly chaotic days. Unexpected conversations lead to breakthrough ideas. Canceled meetings create space for urgent priorities. Technical problems force us to find better systems. What initially appears as time mismanagement often serves purposes we couldn't have planned. Your relationship with imperfection shapes your entire experience of time. When you stop demanding perfection from yourself, days become experiments rather than tests. Mistakes transform from failures into feedback. Unfinished tasks become opportunities for tomorrow rather than evidence of inadequacy. The peace that comes from accepting your perfectly imperfect use of time creates energy for what matters most. This acceptance doesn't mean lowering standards or abandoning goals. Instead, it means approaching your 4,000 weeks with realistic expectations and genuine self-compassion, making space for both achievement and humanity in equal measure. Part 4. Writing your own story. The person you were before reading this chapter had dreams, goals, and aspirations, but perhaps lacked the clear framework to transform time from an enemy into an ally. Now you stand at a powerful crossroads where understanding your finite weeks becomes the foundation for intentional living. This section will show you how ordinary people have rewritten their life stories through conscious time choices, proving that anyone can become the author of their own meaningful narrative. Your story begins every morning when you wake up. Each day presents a blank page where you decide what matters most. Think about James, a marketing manager who felt trapped in endless meetings and urgent emails. He spent years believing that productivity meant staying busy. One day, James realized he was living someone else's story, constantly reacting to other people's priorities instead of writing his own. James started small. He identified 3 core values that he wanted his time to reflect: creativity, family connection, and personal growth. Instead of checking emails first thing each morning, he spent 30 minutes writing in a journal. This simple change helped him clarify his thoughts and set intentions for each day. Within 6 months, James had launched a side project, strengthened his relationship with his teenage daughter, and felt more fulfilled at work because he approached tasks with greater purpose. What story do you want your time to tell about who you are and what you value most? Consider Elena, a single mother juggling two jobs while pursuing her nursing degree. She felt overwhelmed and guilty about not having enough time for anything. Elena discovered that her story wasn't about having more time, but about making conscious choices with the time she had. She created what she called her story framework, a simple system where she categorized activities as either building her desired future, nurturing relationships, or maintaining basic needs. Elena's breakthrough came when she stopped trying to be perfect in every area. She accepted that some weeks would focus more on studying, while others would prioritize quality time with her son. By viewing her life as an evolving story rather than a daily test, Elena found peace in the natural rhythms of prioritization. She graduated nursing school and now helps other working parents develop their own time stories. The power of writing your own story lies in recognizing that you have choices, even when circumstances feel limiting. Maria worked in a demanding corporate environment where long hours were expected and celebrated. She felt burned out and disconnected from her original career motivations. Instead of quitting immediately, Maria began making small changes that aligned with her values. She started saying no to non-essential meetings and used that time for meaningful project work. Maria volunteered to mentor junior employees, which brought purpose to her workdays. She also established boundaries around weekend work, dedicating Saturdays to hiking and Sundays to cooking meals for the week. These changes didn't happen overnight, but each small decision helped Maria rewrite her professional story from surviving to thriving. How can you make one small change today that better reflects the story you want to live? The most powerful stories often emerge from the simplest decisions. David was a retiree who felt lost after decades of structured work life. He initially filled his days with television and household projects, but felt empty and restless. David decided to write a different retirement story by focusing on contribution and learning. He began volunteering at a local literacy center, teaching adults to read. David also started learning Spanish, something he had always wanted to do. These activities gave structure and meaning to his days. More importantly, they reflected his values of helping others and personal growth. David's story shows that it's never too late to become intentional about time choices. Your story doesn't require dramatic changes or perfect execution. Rachel, a busy mother of 3, transformed her daily experience by implementing what she called story moments. Brief instances throughout the day where she paused to consider whether her current activity aligned with her desired narrative. When her children argued, instead of reacting with frustration, Rachel would pause and think about the mother she wanted to be in her story. This simple practice helped her respond with patience and turn conflicts into teaching moments. When work demands threatened to consume her evenings, Rachel remembered that her story prioritized being present for bedtime routines and family dinners. The beauty of viewing yourself as the author of your time story is that it provides clarity during difficult decisions. When opportunities arise, you can ask whether they advance the narrative you want to create. When obligations feel overwhelming, you can evaluate which ones truly serve your story and which ones are distractions from your authentic path. Consider the story of Tom, who worked in finance but dreamed of becoming a woodworker. For years, he believed this was impossible due to financial responsibilities. Tom began writing his transition story by dedicating 2 hours every Saturday morning to woodworking in his garage. He built simple projects initially, gradually developing skills and confidence. After 2 years of consistent Saturday sessions, Tom had created a small business selling custom furniture. He didn't quit his day job immediately, but began transitioning gradually as his woodworking income grew. Tom's story demonstrates that major life changes often begin with small, consistent actions that align with your desired narrative. What small action could you take this week that moves your life story in the direction you truly want? Your story includes both action and reflection. Successful authors of their own time regularly evaluate whether their daily choices support their intended narrative. This doesn't mean constant self-criticism, but rather gentle course corrections when you notice drift from your values and goals. Mark, a college professor, discovered that his teaching story had become about getting through courses rather than inspiring students. He began each semester by writing down the impact he wanted to have on his students' lives. This practice helped Mark make better choices about where to invest his preparation time and how to engage with students during office hours. Writing your own story also means accepting that some chapters will be more challenging than others. Lisa faced a difficult period caring for her aging parents while managing her own career and family. Instead of viewing this as a detour from her story, Lisa recognized it as an important chapter about love, sacrifice, and family values. She adjusted her expectations for other areas of life during this time and focused on being fully present for her parents' needs. Lisa's story shows that authentic time authorship sometimes means temporarily narrowing your focus to honor what matters most in each season of life. Your story begins now, with your next choice about how to spend the minutes and hours ahead of you. The most important step is recognizing that you have the power to write a narrative that reflects your deepest values and truest self, one intentional decision at a time.